Part C of this problem is asking us to find the total daily revenue realized from the sale of 600 units of microwaves. So we know that it costs over $13,000 to create those 600 microwaves. We found that in part B, and now we want to compare that to the revenue that we would get if we sold all 600 of those microwaves. So we need to plug into the revenue function, which is going to be tough to do because we don't have it yet. So we need to find the revenue function. We're going to solve another initial value problem to go from r prime to r. So the first step to go from r prime to r is going to be to take the antiderivative of negative 0.12x plus 43 dx. So r of x is going to be negative 0.12 over 2, x to the 2. Add 1, divide by it, put it as your new power. Antiderivative of 43 is 43x. And then we have a plus c because there's not an evaluation bar to put on this one. Our second step is to figure out what the initial value c is. So we want to figure out what is the initial revenue when they sell 0 things. So we were told that the fixed daily cost no matter what was $780. We're not told the fixed daily revenue. So we need to just think about this. What is the revenue from selling 0 microwaves? What's our initial value going to be? If you sell 0 microwaves, I've done this today. I've sold 0 microwaves and I've made $0. So that initial value must be 0. There's an initial cost for them because they own this company and it costs something. But there's not an initial revenue. If they haven't sold anything, they haven't made any money. So C must be 0. So for our third step, writing that final equation, r of x, I can simplify this. Negative 0.12 divided by 2 is going to be negative 0.06 x squared plus 43x, and then C is 0. There's no initial value. So there's our total revenue function. And we are asked, what is the revenue from selling 600 microwaves? So now I can finally answer this question. R of 600, I'd probably have to grab my calculator and just plug in 600 for x. And I'm getting $4,200 out. Ooh, this is not a good deal for them. We just said in part B that the cost of making 600 microwaves is $13,380, and then the revenue that they're expected to get is $4,200. This is definitely not an ideal level of production for them. It's costing way more than it's going to be worth in revenue, so their profit would be negative for that one. We don't want to advise that. So the next part says, let's look at a different level. What is the additional cost and additional total revenue incurred by this company from producing and selling the 200 first to the 300 units? So we know they shouldn't go with 600 because it costs way more than they're going to make in revenue. But what happens if we go from the 200 first to the 300th? How much more revenue are they going to make? So we already have our revenue function that we just found above. And to find this, we just need to figure out, well, what's the total revenue for all 300 minus the total revenue for all 200. And that will tell us the difference between making and selling the 200 first to the 300th unit. So we plug in R of 300, which is 7,500. I'm just plugging in to this piece above in my calculator. Negative 0.06 times 300 squared plus 43 times 300 gives me $7,500 in revenue from producing and selling 300 microwaves. Minus plugging in 200 to this, I'm going to subtract that value. So they make $6,200 off of producing and selling. You have to sell to have revenue. So the difference between the two is $1,300. So then probably the next step is to compare that to the cost difference between those two levels of production and see if it's going to be worth their while. If it's only going to cost them an extra $800, okay, go for it. But if it's going to cost them an extra $3,000 and their revenue is going to only increase by $1,300, not the ideal production level for them.